Hi, John. Thank you so much for joining the Leading for Wellness podcast. I really appreciate you making the time.
Thanks, Liesl. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'd love you to tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you
Yeah.
got to become the CEO of Nordic Naturals.
Yeah. So I spent 14 years at General Mills in kind of the traditional consumer packaged goods brand management pathway, leading up to more general management responsibilities there. The experiences that I loved most there were actually international experiences because I found that they were more entrepreneurial, fast paced, and it kind of led me to looking for different experiences than kind of big traditional CPG. I then spent about 8 years with Polaris, which is a power sports company, helping them build businesses, purchase businesses, and build businesses that were adjacent to their core off-road and on-road businesses. So I got a little M&A opportunity and experience, and then also was able to build some businesses from, we took a $150 million business to about 350 when I left. It's now about 450. And then we took a $600 million marine business to over $1 billion. And so
Wow.
had some experience building some businesses and got a headhunter call, as so the story goes, about Nordic Naturals. And what I loved about Nordic Naturals was just the one that they really believe in their purpose, which is helping people find better health for a better life. And like you could see it immediately when I met people who work there, that's why people chose to work at the company. And they really focus on, doing what's right, making sure that they have the highest quality products. And that was inspiring. And then it's just a really unique opportunity in that, it's 100% privately held by the Opheim family. You are started it in 1995. His kids and him are, owning it. He's transferring some of the ownership to them at this time, but wants it to continue to be privately held. And so, it's a really exciting to be part of an independent business that's growing, that's large, but also that doesn't have to answer to the public markets and maybe make shorthanded and short decisions, and that can also, stay away from private equity, which can also, really be trying just to boost short-term valuations as
Hmm.
opposed to really driving long-term value.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think makes Nordic Natural supplements unique? What is sort of the process, as much as you can share?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that UR was great about when he started this journey was, and I want to start a little bit talking about kind of how and why he founded the company because it really talks about
Yeah.
why he does what he does. And so he was a gymnast in Norway and had some injuries and after being a gymnast really had bad arthritis. And so he took fish oils to help, anti-inflammatory, help with his arthritis he had, and came to the US for business school and couldn't find really good quality fish oils in the US. And so he started having bad arthritis again. And so he was literally bringing suitcases full of fish oil from
Wow.
Norway just for himself. And some of his friends, he's working in Silicon Valley in tech, and some of his friends were like, "You should start a business making high quality fish oils." And so while he was working full time in the tech industry, he was, on weekends going to trade shows and trying to build a fish oil business. And eventually, the fish oil business became big enough that he left his tech job and continued to manage that business. But it was really because he wanted high quality fish oils to help with some of the ailments that he had from being a gymnast. And so he's always had that focus on the highest quality. We talk about purity, potency, and freshness. And that's what Nordic Naturals is all about, having the purest fish oil, the most potent, so highest concentration of fish oils, and the freshest fish oils. And we do that really by owning our supply chain. And UR has done a great job of, backwards integrating. He started just sourcing from third-party manufacturing, because he couldn't afford manufacturing when he started. He'd make sure he sourced the best fish oils from different fish oil processors and concentration companies. But to get to where we are today with products like Ultimate Omega and Ultimate 2X,
Hmm. I
he
love
really
that
had
product.
to then invest in backwards integration to be able to own some of his supply chain. And so he purchased his own manufacturing facility in 2009 in Carlsbad. And then he purchased the oil processing plant that he was working with in Norway in 2014. And from there, then he was able to really push the science behind the product and really focus on how do we have the best concentrations, the purest product, the most fresh product. And recently, we've also been working with suppliers down in Peru on making sure we can source Peruvian anchovies have the highest natural concentration of
Wow.
EPA and DHA. And so we've just entered into a strategic partnership to make sure we can source the highest quality Peruvian anchovies to make sure we get the highest quality oils. So just continuing to backwards integrate to really own our own supply chain. And we're the one of the only supplement, at least omega-3 companies that owns that much of their supply chain, really from fish to bottling.
really be able to maintain the quality of your products. I didn't know that anchovies have the highest omega-3. So where do other companies source their omega-3s if they're not getting it from anchovies?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of fish species that have omega-3, salmon, any fatty fish. So salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring, they all have omega-3. In fact, we started in Norway with cod liver oil. Cod liver oil
Okay.
is caught in Arctic Norway. That's where our Norway processing plant is. But as we got smarter about the science behind omega-3s, we learned that sardines and anchovies actually have the highest concentration because they eat the algae that is kind of the root of
Wow.
omega-3s. And by eating that algae, they basically are able to, in the fat in their body, concentrate the most amount of EPA and DHA. So they have about 30% of their fat is just straight up EPA and DHA. And so that allows us, again, when we're up concentrating, and what we talk about, and this is maybe getting a little too into the science. If you don't want to, let me know.
No, this is
But
fascinating.
but an omega-3 is a triglyceride. All fats are triglycerides, right? When you concentrate a fat, you can it's basically a 3-strand molecule with something that connects the 3 strands, and you separate the 3 strands, and then you add more of those fats, those EPAs and DHAs, to those strands. And if you don't reconnect it, it's called an ethyl ester. Well, we take the extra step to reconnect it to make it a triglyceride again. And again, science to do that.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And that basically puts it in the form that your body is naturally used to seeing fats in as a triglyceride. And so it really helps with the absorption of that, omega-3. So if we can get higher concentrations on those 3 strands and then make it a triglyceride form again, it really helps with the absorption and the quality of the product that you're going to get.
That's fascinating. And I think a lot of consumers have no idea. They buy, an omega-3 product on the shelf and they think everything's equal, but, obviously it's not. So that was fascinating. You're obviously super passionate about the product and what you do. And I had the benefit of seeing your Carlsbad facility. Very, very impressive. And, walking through the manufacturing, it was very, very, very impressive. So congratulations on all your success. I would love to hear about your personal health hacks and how you incorporate that into your leadership style and, what products and supplements you take as, to keep yourself at peak performance.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call them hacks, but I grew up in a very, I guess, athletic household, and so started with sports, played sports through college. And then after college, I saw a lot of my friends when I was still in college kind of quickly get out of shape. And so after college, I said, I don't want that to happen to me. And so I kind of started running, and I didn't really enjoy running, but I also got a lab after college, and I had to take him for walks anyway. And I've had a lab now basically my whole life. And what I've learned to do is I take them for a run in the morning, and that gets me to get some good exercise in the morning. Gets kind of my, it's almost a self-meditation for me while I do meditation separately. And I just started doing that since I started at Nordic Naturals. It's kind of, before that was my way to just decompress, and just kind of think about the day ahead and prioritize the day ahead while also just getting some exercise. And so I've been running in the mornings. I don't run long distances, just 30 minutes or so, 45 minutes in the mornings, with my dog for years, and then doing just some simple weight training and stuff like that from a health side, while also trying to do some old men's sports. I play old men hockey a little bit, and just got pickleball a little bit with a neighbor of mine. So but anything active and outdoors. I love to mountain bike. I love to go wakeboarding and wake surfing. I've tried to get into with more time in California, some of regular surfing and even kiteboarding was an adventure that I've recently tried. So, but just doing anything active and outdoors, I like to do.
Incorporating play incorporating play is so important, right?
Exactly, and it just makes it like I would rather be out mountain biking or surfing than running on a treadmill. I don't love running on treadmills, and I will avoid it unless I absolutely cannot do something else. Like I'd rather run outside or do something else. But we travel a lot for work, and so sometimes there's just no other options. But I just anytime I can just kind of be active and outdoors, I love that. You also asked about kind of my supplement routine. So I have gotten in the habit recently, and it was interesting. I'll admit, before I started working at Nordic Naturals about 2 years ago, I wasn't an omega-3 user, and I was barely a multivitamin user. I was in a great habit of it. Since I started at Nordic Naturals, I basically take an omega-3, a multivitamin, and a probiotic. And it was interesting, within probably 3 or 4 months, of starting that regimen, I noticed I used to get out of bed and I felt like I was a really old man, and my just like ankles would crack and I could hardly walk, and you
A little
know,
creaky. Yeah.
yeah, it was creaky. And I noticed a difference. And now, unless I do something super strenuous or something, like I will get up and I'll feel much better. And I really attribute it to the supplementation, because that was really the only lifestyle change that I really made. And so it's just helped me, feel younger again, I guess, and really be able to, feel like I'm treating my body better. So that's been fantastic. And I wouldn't have found it if I wouldn't have started working at Nordic Naturals. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And the founder's story is so inspirational, that he did it for himself, that he was a competitive gymnast, and that this really changed his life. And he, created this incredible company. How do you incorporate wellness into the culture and your leadership style,
Yeah, I
balance of
mentioned
life
that.
and all that stuff?
Was a big believer in meditation, and just,
Hmm.
that balance, hey, you have to have mind body balance, you have to have work life balance. He's a big believer in balance. And so we have a meditation room at work. We bring in expert people in meditation to teach us how to learn how to meditate. So I picked that up. We also do yoga and Pilates at work. We have a
Wow.
weekly kind of group that comes in. We have a gym that people are encouraged to use, and it does get used, which is great. I actually use it as well when I'm in the office. And so, and outside, we actually have a pickleball court outside now. We have a basketball hoop that, some of the employees pick up basketball at. And so, we do try to make sure that we believe in balance as well. And this idea of,
Hmm.
hey, it's mind, it's body, it's, work, but life balance. And I think the employees appreciate that for sure.
That's amazing that you actually practice what you preach. And I think meditation is more and more becoming mainstream, like the woo-woo, sort of view of meditation is going.
Yeah.
What are the personal benefits that you feel like you're getting out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed just from a stress level, when in any job, we all face daily stresses, and meditation just helps me really ground and focus on what's important
Mhm.
and what really matters, and just helps me again put things into perspective a little bit. And I think that's been the biggest benefit for me is, when we're harried and when we're, feeling overwhelmed, just to like relax, put things into perspective and figure out, hey, focus on what's the most important things has been one of the biggest benefits I found with my meditation practice. And I'll be candid, I would like to do more of it. I actually have my assistant schedule time on my calendar now to make sure it happens.
Mhm.
But I would benefit from doing more of it. But like any habit, it's just hard to kind of break it into your daily routine as much. And so I'm continuing to progress in my own journey that way.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so easy to, make sure or not make time for meditation because your mind takes over and you're too busy. There's this saying that you should meditate for an hour a day, and if you're really busy, you should meditate for 2 hours a day, right?
That's a great saying, and that's
Yeah,
probably
I think it
true.
was Thich Nhat Hanh that said that. But I find that for myself too. The days that I don't make time to meditate, things just don't flow as smoothly. I'm not as happy.
Yeah.
But that 30 minutes a day can make such a huge difference. It's really, really, really powerful. And I love the fact that you're encouraging with that within the organization, working out, and obviously your employees have access to good supplementation as well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What else? What else do you want to share about Nordic Naturals that I think our listeners would appreciate? And
I mean, what I love about Nordic Naturals, I worked at a, large CPG company before, and at a lot of those companies, they look at ways to, hey, how do we maintain margins by trying to cut costs and try to make the product, we don't want consumers to maybe notice changes, but over time you make a change from A to B and consumers don't notice, and a B to C and they don't notice, but finally you get from C to D and they notice the change that went from A to D, over time, because they're continuing to try to make margins. It's been really refreshing at Nordic Naturals that we're really focused on, hey, what can we do to make the product better? And we really believe in the focus on the quality of our product and that, purity, that potency, and that freshness. And so while we won't have the, lowest price omega-3s, we will make sure that you are getting the highest quality omega-3s. And same thing, as you look at the rest of our portfolio, is we won't have the cheapest multivitamin out there, but we usually will tend to pick sources of the vitamins that are in our multivitamin that are the most bioavailable, that are usually the higher concentration forms of those vitamin sources. And so, you should just, as you get into supplementation, you should understand not all vitamin Bs are the same vitamin Bs. Not all magnesiums are the same magnesiums. And, looking for sources that have more bioavailability, you're going to pay more, but you're actually going to be able to digest it. You're not wasting a lot of the vitamins that you're taking. And so, Nordic does have that focus on, hey, we want to make the best products for consumers, the ones that are most bioavailable, the ones that they're going to, get the best absorption out of. And it is, you pay a premium for that, but you also hopefully see the value in it. And I think, consumers should know that looking for companies like this, Nordic Naturals, where we're focused on trying to provide the best products, is something that is sometimes tough to find this day and age. And I think it's rare. And I appreciate that Nordic continues to focus on that.
Yeah, that's really, really impressive. And I think not every supplement company out there can say that. Tell me about where, let me stop there for a second. What do you see the plan is for Nordic Natural? What's the vision for Nordic Naturals over the next 2 to 5 years? And, sort of, how do you feel like you're going to impact the global wellness sort of evolution?
Great question. I mean, we have a vision of trying to eradicate omega-3 deficiency. So our largest product, the vast majority of our sales are omega-3s. And 80% of consumers in the US, a little bit less probably globally, are deficient in omega-3s. We as a
Why is it less globally than in the US?
There are parts of the globe that eats more fish, frankly, as part of their diet. The US doesn't, and a lot of parts of the world doesn't. But if they tend to eat more fish, I mean, you'd have to eat, 2 servings of fish a day, basically, to be not deficient in omega-3s. Yeah, wow. To be your optimal level of omega-3s. And our Western diets tend to not allow for that. And so, most people in Western diets are deficient in omega-3s. And you can go to companies like Omega Quant and some others and test where your omega-3 levels are if you're interested in. You can also ask your physician to test your levels of omega-3s. And omega-3s, for people who don't know, they're in every cell of your body and they do so many functions.
I didn't know that.
Confusing because of that. They can do things like, Liesl, what do you think of when you think of omega-3? Like, what benefit do you think of?
Arthritis, joint health,
so anti-inflammatory benefits are definitely a big thing that omega-3 does. A lot of people talk about heart health. People associate omega-3s with heart health. That's also a benefit. Cognition is a benefit.
Brain health.
If you're a pregnant mom, DHA supplementation is really important for the development of your fetus. And for babies as well, in terms of development of brains and healthy eyes. There's eye health benefits of omega-3s. Because they're in every cell of your body, there are so many clinically proven benefits of omega-3s that it gets really confusing for consumers. Yeah. And I think it's, hard to, talk to consumers in a 15-second or 30-second TV commercial or a quick digital ad that they see about why they should take omega-3s and why they're so important for you. But really, that's our obligation, as the leader in omega-3s in the US and likely the world in terms of sales. It's our job to educate more people to take omega-3 so they get the benefits to all those different systems throughout their body, and therefore have, a healthier life. But it's difficult. And so, we basically are taking on that challenge. Our vision is to help basically eradicate the omega-3 deficiency. And to do that, we measure that by how much household penetration we have in the US. Right now, omega-3 has about a 14% household penetration in the US.
That's low, isn't it?
Very low.
Very low.
Where even probiotics are 28 or 30% household penetration. Probiotics are, and multivitamins are, 70% of households have them in them. And so, many nutritionists would say, man, we would rather have people taking omega-3s because they're in every cell of your body and they do all these other things and some of these other forms of supplementation. But it's our job to educate people on that. And so that's really our vision, over the next 5 years, is try to eliminate omega-3 deficiency by doubling the category size and driving household penetration of omega-3s. And so we're doing that by really going, next year you'll see even more efforts towards driving awareness through education, through consumer campaigns. We're working with GOED, which is the Global Omega-3 Industry Association, to also really help drive awareness across, consumers about the benefits of omega-3s. And so, that's really our vision: is how do we help people understand the benefits of omega-3s so more people take omega-3s?
That's amazing. And I think most people have a little bit of a resistance to taking a fish oil product because we've all had that after burp, right? If you have,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I don't want to smell like fish in my next
Nope.
meeting. But I think one thing I could definitely say, in experiencing your omega-3s and taking them on a daily basis, there's no aftertaste, there's no fish oil smell. So
Yeah.
it's educating consumers that an option like that is out there that has extremely high potency. And it's amazing that only 14% of households use omega-3s and 28 think that, probiotics are more important. Obviously, they're both important, but if
Terrible.
you
Important.
think
I think
about,
both.
what your cells need, omega-3s are probably more important. So
Yeah.
love the education that you are doing, on that front. And, definitely would love
Yeah,
to
I mean, there's
assist in
some,
any way.
like you said, some people are avert to, fishy burps. Obviously, fishy burps come from rancid product and product that isn't as fresh. And that's why we're able to do it. I mean, we actually sell liquid omega-3s, which are, you could take in a spoon or be a dropper that don't taste fishy at all because we keep them fresh. And to do that, we basically, all our facilities are running basically, instead of oxygen, they're nitrogen flush facilities. And so, no oxygen touches the fish oil throughout any part of our production to ensure that none of that oxidation creates
Is that what
rancidity.
interesting? So that's what's
That's one way
creating
to
the.
keep our product fresh, but also, like we said, owning our supply chain. So we go from boat to concentration, cleaning, deodorizing, to putting it into production and getting it into your, either your soft gel or your tablet. The other thing I'd say is there's a lot of different ways to take omega-3s. So, the most common is a fish oil, right? But we've actually just launched, and you can find it right now at Whole Foods Market, ultimate omega concentration of an algal or plant-based omega-3, which, again, if you're a vegan or you don't like fishy burps, plant-based omega-3 may be for you. And for the first time ever, we were able to get the concentration of a plant-based omega-3 to the same level as a fish-based omega-3. And so, for people who are opposed to fish forms, that's a great option for them to try. The other option is we actually now have what are called zero sugar gummy chews, and they're also at that ultimate omega level concentration of of the EPA and DHA, and they come in a little. It's almost like a gummy, but I'd call it almost a jelly. It's a different format than anybody else has on the market for omega
Mhm.
threes,
I
and it's a
tasted that. That was actually really tasty, and it didn't taste fishy at all. So that's a great
exactly,
alternative
and
for
it's a
kids
great
too,
way.
as well, right?
Yeah, so I would just encourage people to look, if you're like, boy, I've tried fish oil, I didn't like fish oil because I had a bad experience with it. One, try our fish oil, but two, if you're really concerned about fish oil, try a plant-based version or try those gummy chews, which actually, like you said, have a great flavor. There's no fishy taste to them. So there's other options for consumers. And that's really, what we are driving with innovation, is to make it more accessible to consumers. Like, many of us grew up drinking, having to take a teaspoon of cod liver oil, which
Yeah.
wasn't always the best tasting stuff, but it was actually very good for us, obviously. But there are so many better ways to be able to get omega-3s today than maybe what you grew up on, or the bad experience you
Hmm.
had.
Absolutely. That's fascinating, that there's so many different options available now and different formats. So how do you think the industry has changed since COVID, and where do you see the natural supplement industry going over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, COVID was a great way for us to drive awareness of the benefits of supplementation. And, one thing that I learned from a nutritionist when I came into this industry was, the apple that your parents or my parents ate had a lot higher level of nutrients than the apples we get today, whether it's from,
Mhm.
nutrition leaving our soil from being over farmed, or whether it's just from the environmental circumstances we have. It's tougher to get the nutrition your body needs through just eating food. And so supplementation is a great way to make sure your body's getting the nutrition it needs. And I think a lot of consumers, when they were concerned with, you know, particular immunity during the COVID pandemic, started to look at different ways to boost some of the nutrients that they maybe were concerned about getting enough of. And it exposed them to the supplements aisle or the supplements industry. And I think that was a very positive thing. It's our job as a supplements industry now to help people understand what are the best supplements for them? What should they take? We have great partners and retailers that, consumers can go into the aisle and they'll meet with sometimes registered nutritionists and dietitians that can really help consumers decide what's best for them. But
Mhm.
generally, the rule of thumb is, you want to be taking an omega-3, a multivitamin, and a probiotic is a kind of a good base to cover all your bases. And then if you need some specific, you've been tested low in B vitamins, you might want to, supplement with additional B vitamins, or a lot of people like D and K because some people have a tough time really digesting vitamin D or absorbing vitamin D in their body. So there's
Mhm.
different, things based on talking to your practitioner, talking to your nutritionist that can help you understand, hey, what can I do to make sure that I'm getting the nutrients that my body needs based on my unique type? And there's a lot of people out there to help people with that. But I think in terms of where the trends are going to your question is, it was great to see more people come in. It's our job as a supplement industry to help guide them and digest and help them understand what's best for them. And I see that continuing, this idea of mass customization is not a new trend. And I think that's going to go in the supplements where we will be able to help people understand, like we do omega-3 testing, where you can understand your current omega-3 levels, what kind of the optimal range is. And then based on that, this is probably the level of omega-3s that you should be taking daily. We can offer that right now to consumers, but there's, this
How do they
idea.
access that?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, you can look to get omega-3 tested. And then also, like I said, go to your practitioner and ask your doctor
And
what your
ask that.
omega-3
Yeah.
levels are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of
But
the
that's not a standard blood test that
it
people
is
that's
not a standard
you
blood
have
test,
to
and
ask for it. It's kind of like asking
yep,
for a
and some
cortisol
insurance
test.
companies cover it great, some insurance companies won't,
It's
and so you got to,
crazy.
it's all part of that, healthcare mix up that we have here in the US. But we're working as part of GOED, like I said, as an industry group to really help, ensure that insurance companies know the benefits of understanding omega-3 levels. Because again, preventative medicine is good for everybody. It saves healthcare costs over the long run. And,
Mhm.
and supplementation is a form of kind of preventative medicine, doing the right thing to make sure your body's getting the nutrients it needs. And so,
Why
um,
are doctors not promoting that more?
I don't know if this should be said on the podcast, but this is John's personal opinion. You know,
Okay.
the pharmaceutical industry is a huge industry, and they
Mhm.
make billions of dollars on drug sales. And they spend a lot of money influencing doctors, sending them to conferences, sending them to beautiful locations. The supplement industry has never been, I don't think, either large enough or big enough to kind of do the same thing with doctors. Now, we have a small pro division that, and I shouldn't say small, we have a very good pro division that really actively goes after professional doctors and chiropractors and help them understand the benefits of omega-3s, but nowhere near the level of salespeople that a Pfizer has calling on doctors' offices, pushing some of the big prescription drugs, because those are just blockbuster. The size of those drug companies are just so
It's
much
money
bigger than,
driven. Yeah.
yeah, than what we can do. And so that's, it's like any supply and demand thing. When they're being pushed so much, these doctors on these pharmaceuticals, it's really tough to get their attention on a supplement brand, and so,
Yeah,
I
especially
think
if
it's
they're
just
not going to get a kickback on it, or, there's other incentives on it. It's
exactly. I
just
mean, that's,
it's
I think,
really
one of the
hard.
challenges with the structure today. And so there's integrative health practitioners who really focus a little bit more on what they call integrative health, which is preventative health and really
Mhm.
holistic health. And those practitioners think a little bit more about supplementation. Every OBGYN will talk about supplementation, the importance of a prenatal, as you're thinking about
Mhm.
pregnancy and stuff like that. So there's certain parts of medicine where it's much more common to be talked about. But, you think about just going to your um, general practitioner, and they got 15 minutes with you if you're lucky, right? A test, and they're looking at all these other major concerns so they don't get sued for missing something on you. It's not often the first thing that they think about. And so
Yeah.
what I encourage consumers to do is ask their doctors, though, when they bring it up proactively, it kind of triggers to doctors, and then they know enough. Most doctors have had education on supplementation, the benefits of supplementation, that they can talk to it. It's just not the first thing they're thinking about because they have so many other things that they want to make sure they're checking off. And so, I think the challenge why doctors don't talk about it is, again, drug companies are spending more time and money with them, and they have a lot of things that they got to cover in a visit, and supplementation is just usually not high enough on the list to get hit unless it's asked about. And so, again, us as an industry, we should do better. and we can do better to try to push it more, but it's not where we are right now.
Yep, yep. And it really comes down to the consumer doing their own research and really understanding what their own bodies need and asking for that instead of waiting for a medical practitioner to tell them, sort of what they need to do with their health. Unfortunately, I think we're in that state where we all have to take ownership of our own health.
I agree.
You've shared some incredible information today about omega-3s and just your process and everything else. Very, very informational. Thank you so much, John. I'd love to know what's next for you. Where do you see yourself in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years in a perfect world?
Well, hopefully continuing to push Nordic Naturals. And, we've talked about over time, we want to innovate on, transparency. We want to innovate our supply chain. We want to drive awareness and education. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure we can help more consumers get more omega-3s. And so over the next 5 years, that's the journey I think I'm going to be on. It's exciting though, because, the impact you can have. Every quarter we do what we call town halls, and we read, letters that consumers have written us about the impact that we've had on their life.
That's amazing.
It's super inspiring. And I think when you work in a profession like that, where you really can see the impact that you have on people's health and people's lives because of that, it's very rewarding. And so I don't imagine myself going anywhere else, knowing that, what we do here has such a positive impact on people's life. And I can see that, every day, at a minimum every quarter when we read through some of those letters. So it's a very fun industry to be in. And I'm enjoying meeting people like yourself and others who are in this industry. And I just think we have a lot of runway ahead of us to continue to help people and impact people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on all your success. And I really admire how you guys are leading by example. You personally, in the way you lead your organization, encouraging meditation and healthy habits within your teams, and also how you're impacting the world. So great work, and please continue doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate it. And thank you. I mean, obviously, this is just another opportunity to get the word of Nordic Naturals out. So appreciate listeners listening to it.
Thank you so much. If people want to know more about Nordic Naturals or your products, where can they reach you or the company?
So just go to www.nordic.com. And we have, the full gamut of products you can buy directly from nordic.com on there. There's a lot of educational information on there. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, John. I look forward to having you on our podcast again in the future.
Thanks, Liesl. Have a great day. Appreciate it.